I was already giving up on everything, totally desperate, feeling like there was no way out from this endless cycle of depression and zero motivation. The year was racing toward its end, and I hadn't checked off a single goal from my plans. Everything I wanted to achieve just sat there, untouched, because I kept procrastinating and losing focus at every turn. It felt hopeless, like my brain was sabotaging me. And deep down, I realized this procrastination was also rooted in a crippling fear of failing, making me avoid even starting. But then, a notification popped up on my phone. It was my friend sending me a video about resetting your inner drive and breaking free from that mental fog. I watched it, and it completely changed how I saw things. It explained everything through the lens of dopamine, that key chemical in our brains. And I knew I had to share these insights with you. That video my friend sent was a game changer. It dove into why we get stuck in these ruts of procrastination and low energy, all tied to how dopamine works. I was so blown away by the explanations that I decided to break it down here, in a way that's easy to grasp, so you can apply it too, and turn things around before it's too late. Let's start with the basics. Dopamine is that essential brain chemical that powers our motivation and focus. It's like the battery that keeps us going, pushing us to tackle tasks, chase goals, and even survive day-to-day challenges. Without it firing properly, everything grinds to a halt. And that's exactly what was happening to me with my endless procrastination. To understand it better, picture dopamine as having a steady baseline level, like a normal resting state, and then peaks that spike up when something exciting happens. The video showed this with a simple graph. Your baseline is here, and when you do something rewarding, like scrolling social media or finally hitting a small win, a peak shoots up. But here's the catch. After that high, your dopamine doesn't just return to baseline. It dips below it, sometimes way below. The bigger the spike, the deeper the crash, leaving you feeling empty, unfocused, and even more prone to procrastinating, because your fear of failing feels amplified in that low state. Think about it in everyday terms. Imagine finally pushing through to finish a project you've been putting off, only to feel strangely hollow and depressed afterward. Like, what now? Or picture big shows to avoid your to-do list. The initial thrill fades, and you're left with even less energy, spiraling into more avoidance because the fear of messing up real tasks feels overwhelming. That's the crash in action, turning motivation into a distant memory. Now, let's talk about how this builds up, especially with habits that hook us. Say you dive into something addictive, like endlessly checking your phone for notifications. The first time gives a huge dopamine rush, making you feel alive and distracted from your fears. But do it again and again, and those peaks get smaller each time, while your overall baseline sinks lower and lower. Before you know it, you're depleted, with no drive left for important things, leading to anxiety, deeper depression, and that constant procrastination, because even small steps feel too risky, like they might confirm your fear of failure. The key insight from the video is that we all have just one universal dopamine battery. It's not separate for different parts of life. So, if you're spiking it constantly with quick hits like junk food, gaming, or social media to numb the depression, you're draining the same reserve needed for focus and productivity. This leaves you with a chronically low baseline, where even planning your day feels exhausting, and procrastination takes over because your brain is too depleted to face the fear of not succeeding. It's all connected, and that's why my year was slipping away without any progress. Why does it work this way? The video explained it from an evolutionary angle. Thousands of years ago, dopamine motivated our ancestors to overcome real hardships, like hunting for food or building shelter, by rewarding the effort with a surge after success. But once they got the reward, levels dropped below baseline on purpose, to keep them hungry for the next challenge, ensuring survival. In our modern world, though, with endless easy rewards at our fingertips, we spike dopamine too often without the real effort, leading to that depleted state where fear of failure paralyzes us, turning into chronic procrastination and making goals feel unattainable as the year ends. So, how do we fix this? The video laid out practical ways to reset and rebuild. First, cut back on those high-spike activities that drain your battery. Things like constant scrolling or over-rewarding yourself. to give your dopamine reserves time to replenish naturally. But it's not just about avoidance. It's about rethinking how you approach tasks. For example, with something like exercise, which I used to procrastinate on forever, people often pile on extras like upbeat music, caffeine boosts, or promises of treats afterward to make it fun. But that actually backfires because it ties your motivation to those external highs, making it harder to stick with it when they're not there. When you load up on all those motivators, your brain gets conditioned to only release dopamine when everything's perfect. The music, the energy drink, the reward. Take one away, and suddenly the activity feels boring or scary, amplifying that fear of failing and leading right back to procrastination. The better way is to embrace intermittent dopamine. Sometimes you get the extras, sometimes you don't, and mix up the conditions so your brain learns to find motivation from the activity itself, building resilience against those lows and helping you push through without constant crashes. The video even referenced a fascinating study from Stanford with kids who love drawing. When they started getting rewards for it, like stickers or praise, their natural enjoyment dropped. It became all about the external payoff. Once the rewards stopped, they lost interest entirely. This shows how relying on outside incentives can kill intrinsic drive, making us more likely to procrastinate when the fear of not getting that win creeps in. The real shift is to link pleasure to the effort, not just the end result. Start telling yourself during the hard parts, "This challenge is the good part. It's building me up." Over time, this rewires your dopamine to spike from the process itself, reducing the fear of failure because you're not chasing a perfect outcome. You're valuing the push. It turns procrastination into progress, giving you the focus to actually achieve those year-end goals. A great example the video used was something like intermittent fasting, not eating for a set period. At first, it's tough, and procrastination might make you want to quit, fueled by fear of discomfort. But as you stick with it, the effort becomes rewarding. You notice feeling lighter, sharper mentally, and more in control. The dopamine starts coming from the discipline itself, not just the meal at the end, creating a positive cycle that boosts your overall baseline and helps conquer that depressive fog. Wrapping this up, here are the main points to remember. First, dopamine is your motivation battery. Every quick pleasure drains it, so use those wisely by cutting back to let it recharge, especially if procrastination and fear are holding you back. Second, it has a baseline and peaks. Big spikes lead to deeper crashes, lowering your drive and making simple tasks feel impossible. Third, make the effort the source of pleasure. Don't overload on external rewards before or after. Learn to get your dopamine from the hard work itself. Apply these, and you'll reset your focus, overcome that fear-driven procrastination, and finally make real progress as the year closes out. If this resonates, give it a try, and let me know how it goes. Like and subscribe this video, and share with your friend who needs to stop procrastination.